else may be seated. The jurors are present. Defense, can you call your next witness?
Danielle Woodard.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You can put your hand out. Please speak into the microphone. State your full name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Danielle Woodard. My last name is Woodard.
Okay, maybe you can speak up a little bit and maybe help.
My name is Danielle Woodard. My last name is Woodard.
Thank you. Ms. Woodard, can you tell the jury where you currently live?
In Turner Guilford Night.
Okay, and what is that?
It's detention center.
Okay. In Miami?
Yes.
Okay. Are you nervous?
Overwhelmed.
Okay. Ms. Woodard, who's your mother?
Brenda Woodard.
Okay. I'm going to show you a couple of photos that have been marked as defense O and P for identification. May I approach?
We can't hear you.
Can't hear me?
No.
Okay. May I approach the witness?
Yes, but will you repeat the what they're marked for identification?
Oh, P and O. Do you know who it is in these photos?
That's Brenda.
Judge, I'm requesting that what's been marked as P and O be entered into evidence.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Right. Defense exhibit PO for identification will be received as defense 4. Defense P for identification will be received as defense 5. You may. Tammy, use the wheel. Oh,
That's okay. Is your mother still alive?
She died last year.
Okay. Do you know if she had any other children?
Brenda had me, Nicholas, and Zachary.
Okay. Did you live with your mother as a child?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever live with anyone other than your mother as a child?
Yes.
Who else did you live with?
Numerous people.
Okay. Who were they?
My grandmother. That was my mother. Dorothy. I loved my grandmother very much. And Jody.
Is that Jody Hale?
Jody Hale and her husband, who I called Grandpa.
Okay. Did you ever live in foster care?
Yes, I lived in foster care at the age of 12 and on.
And Dorothy was Brenda's mother. Is that right?
Dorothy was Brenda's mother.
Okay. I want to go back to 1998. Did you live with your mother in 1998?
That's the time of my life where I lived with Brenda. And Nicholas was developing in her polluted womb. And she was consuming grape Cisco wine cooler.
Objection, not responsive.
Sustained.
Okay, I'm going to ask you about that stuff in just a minute. Do you remember when in 1998 you went to live with Brenda?
Yeah, I remember the day she picked me up.
Okay, do you know like about when it was? Was it in the winter, in the fall, in the summer?
It was in the summertime, right before school started. A while, maybe right after school, elementary had ended, and I was going into 6th grade. Yeah.
Okay, so sometime during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what happened when? Where were you living before you went to live with her in the summer?
Before I went to live with her, I was living with Jody.
Okay. And when Brenda came to get you to live with her, what happened on the way to that apartment?
She picked me up from Jody's house, and we went to a gas station. When we got to Fort Lauderdale, it was right across the street from a women's in distress shelter. And she got down and went into the gas station, and I looked around and I saw glass on the floor of the car because the back seat window was busted. And Brenda came out with a little brown paper bag, and she went to put gas in the car. And as she was pumped the gas, she came around to the front. She lit a cigarette and took a swig, and then she got in the car. I mean, when she was standing out there, that's when I noticed, something in me said, she looks pregnant. She has a baby bump. And she got in the car. And I asked her, are you pregnant? And she looked at me and she said, I got raped. And she took another swig. She turned up the radio, and we drove to the efficiency that I moved into that day with her.
Do you know what was in the paper bag that she was drinking from?
Cisco.
Okay.
Her favorite.
Did anyone else live in the apartment with you?
No, at that moment it was just me, her, and Nicholas.
Okay, did anyone else come to live with you in the apartment?
I begged my grandmother to come because Brenda was definitely out of control. I never really liked her. She was never my favorite. But my grandmother came like 2 weeks later.
Did you ever go to the doctor with your mother?
I went to the doctor with her numerous times. I went to probation with her. Every time we would go, she would have me pee in a cup. And she'd take the pee I would give her and put it in a pill bottle and put aluminum foil and a rubber band around the top. And then I guess put it inside of her. So when she'd go in to see the people, she could urinate and have a clean urine.
Do you know if your mother had a drug problem?
Brenda definitely had a drug problem.
What kind of drugs did she use?
Crack cocaine.
Do you think she had a problem with alcohol?
Major problem with alcohol.
How often did she drink?
All the time.
And is this when you were living with her in that apartment in 1998?
Yeah.
Did your
And
mom?
after and before and all the times I can remember, the majority of the time when I would be with her. Unless we were going to Alcoholics Anonymous. But later on that night, she probably ended up having a drink or two. She would have to do it for probation or something.
Did your mother smoke cigarettes?
Like a chimney.
And she did this while she was pregnant?
Yeah.
Did you ever go with her to buy alcohol and cigarettes?
Yeah. There was, from where we lived, Las Olas, right here, right in this area. Right down the street there was a corner store. And I used to take trips with her. And we would go to the corner store and she would buy food. She would buy soda for me. She would buy her liquor. She would buy paraphernalia. And she would buy her cigarettes.
What kind of paraphernalia did she buy?
There would be these little roses all over the house sometimes, and I would never like could comprehend until I finally got it, understood. She would buy, they come out of, I'm so nervous.
Okay.
She would buy these pipes. I guess they were pipes, but they would like disguise them with little roses inside of them. And she would buy pipes and chore boy.
What is chore boy?
Chore boy is Brillo.
What do you use it for?
You use it to smoke crack.
Okay. Miss Woodard, did you see your mother drinking Cisco while she was pregnant?
Yeah.
Did you see her smoking crack while she was pregnant?
Yes.
Did you see her smoking cigarettes while she was pregnant?
Yes.
And when you moved in with her, you stayed with her up until the time Nicholas was born. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you notice her belly getting bigger and bigger?
Oh, she always wore those same Docker shorts with the baggy t-shirts. That's how I know Brenda.
Did she ever get arrested while you were living with her that summer?
Yeah, she did.
Do you remember what happened?
What did she get arrested for?
When she got arrested?
Yeah, I remember that day.
Okay. When was that?
That day, Brenda came in looking for money. Me and my grandma were at the efficiency. And she demanded my grandmother to give her money, and my grandmother didn't have money to give her. So she made my grandmother strip naked, and my grandmother stripped naked. But my grandmother kept her shoes on. That's where the money was hidden. That was the money for the rent. And since she went in the kitchen, she tore apart the cabinets, she tore apart the refrigerator, she opened baking soda and emptied it out all over the counter. And then my mother turned to my grandmother and said, "You don't want to give me the money? Come on, let's go." She grabbed me and I started like trying to fight back for the first time. And she pulled me to the door, and I don't remember how, but somehow the door ended up closing on my hand. And she took me out. She still took me out. I was screaming. She took me out of the house. My grandma was older at that time already anyway. She couldn't with Brenda. I couldn't neither. I was a child. And she took me to the car, to her Cougar, her beloved car. And she sat me in it. And when she went to get in, I thought there was weed in the car, but I was still like, I didn't know, but it wasn't weed, it was cigarette opened up inside of the car in the console or whatever. I thought it was weed, but it wasn't. When she went around to get in, I looked at her and I said, "I hate you." And I opened the door and I started running. And I ran upstairs to the neighbor's house where there was this big, beautiful dog I always used to go play with. And he wouldn't let Brenda in. He wouldn't let her in over the gate, and the dog wouldn't let her over the gate either. So we called the police. The police came, made her leave. And it was calm then when she left. When she came back, she came back.
Now, do you remember if that was an incident that happened before Nicholas was born or after Nicholas was born?
This happened... I can't remember.
It's okay if you don't remember. Did Brenda have people coming to the apartment when you were staying there? Other people besides your grandmother?
When I first got there, that's why I called for my grandma. Because I got there and there was like a bunch of bums, I guess. Not bums, but I don't want to say it like that. But, you know, there was a bunch of junkies. I don't know how else to put it. They were all getting high. They were paying to smoke and hang out, I guess, and shoot up. And Brenda was, you know, it was her place. So she was like the rent man, you know. You want to smoke and get high? Well, pay me. And you could sit here and smoke and get high. And I was involved. I would always go to the neighbor's house. And then eventually I started learning about Las Olas. And, you know, I spent a lot of times walking on those tracks back and forth. I spent a lot of time playing by the river right by here. And, you know, anything to get away when times was like that, when it was like that.
Do you remember the day Nicholas was born?
Yes, I do.
Did you see him?
I held him. He was full of life. Very, moving around a lot. I was looking at him, holding him. He was looking back at me. It was just real squirmy. And looked at my mom and I said, can we keep him?
What did she say?
At that moment, my grandma, I didn't know that Linda was the lady. I didn't really understand too much. I tried not to. But my grandmother was talking to Linda at that moment. And Brenda screamed at me and at my grandmother and said, "Get her out of here! Get her out of here!" Because I asked if we could keep him.
Did she ever tell you why she wasn't going to keep him?
Well, she had an addiction. That's one of the reasons. She always put that first before me or him or Zach or anybody. What was the question again?
I just asked if she told you why she wasn't keeping him.
Yeah. It was, you know, for him to have a better life, for him to take a different path.
How was Brenda as a mother to you?
Brenda was a mother to me. That's what you said?
I asked how she was. How was she as a mother to you?
Yeah. Horrible.
Poor. How did having Brenda as a mother affect your life?
How did it affect my life? In many ways. In many ways. She just introduced me to a life that no child should ever be introduced to. And, you know, she has no regards, you know, for my life or his life, you know. So.
Ms. Woodard, have you ever been convicted of a felony?
Yes.
Sorry, Ms. Curtis, would you mind speaking up?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Have you ever been convicted of a felony?
Yes.
How many times?
16.
Have you ever been to prison?
Yes.
Did you go back to that apartment after Nicholas was born?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. And how long did you stay there?
I stayed there. It didn't last long. Didn't last long.
Why did you move out?
I started going to school, and I was trying to have a life, I guess, start a life in a way up here, but I don't know.
Were you forced to move out of the apartment?
Yeah, I came back from school one day, and there was an eviction notice on the door, and it said you have a certain amount of time to leave. Then I came back a week later, I think whenever. The eviction notice stayed on the door for a while, for a minute. I came back one day from school, and all my belongings were on the front yard. I couldn't find my cat. And Brenda was waiting for me, like she always is when I get back from school. And she's like, come on, pick up all this stuff, put it in your grandma's car. At this time, my grandma had already left. The abuse had got really bad. She left me, but you know. So then I helped Brenda pick up all my stuff from the front yard, front lawn.
Where did you go?
We went to some crack house, I guess, and I would not get down. And that night we ended up sleeping in the car. And the next day we went to a friend's house of hers, and the lady she had a house. It was all right. She was like acting really crazy in the house, and Brenda was sitting. We had put all our stuff inside, some of our things, and Brenda was sitting at the table when we were finished unloading a few things. She sat at the table, and I sat across from her, and she smoked crack. She took out a pipe and she lit it. She was about to light it, and she was like, "You're not gonna turn your head?" And I said, "For what? You're still gonna smoke that shit." And she cocked back her hand and slapped me. I got up. I didn't cry. I went and sat on the porch, and I made up my mind that I was gonna run away. And the next day we went to a women's in distress shelter. She came up with some story about how her boyfriend beat her up, and she didn't have nowhere to go, so we stayed there. And that night, when she went to sleep, I packed my book bag, and the next morning I went to school, and I ran away.
Where did you go?
I went to this house that wasn't far from where we were living, by Las Olas. And these people, their name were Patty and Buster. My friend, one of the girls who lived in the efficiency complex, she introduced me to them. They were cool people. And I stayed there. I went there.
Okay, how long after that was it before you saw Brenda again?
I saw Brenda a few days later. She came knocking. I don't know how she found out where I was. She came knocking on the door of that little green and white house. It's still there. And she was demanding for her daughter, demanding for me. And I was looking at her, but she didn't know that I saw her. And the people that had me, they were like, "No, her grandmother says she's gonna stay here for right now until they find out what they were gonna do with me."
Okay. And then after that, when was the next time that you saw your mother?
I saw her when I was 16, and I hated her.
So it was a long time later that you saw her.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know where she had been during that time?
I don't know where she was, but I was in a juvenile program. And she was trying to like make her way back in, and I was resistant. I was cursing at her, and I was angry.
Did she tell you anything that had happened that was important in that time period that you didn't see her?
She told me that I had another brother, Zachary.
Okay. Did she show you anything?
Picture?
Okay. I'm going to show you what's been marked as defense Q for identification purposes. May I approach?
You may.
Yeah.
Do you recognize that? And what is that?
Yeah. That's my baby brothers.
Is that the photo she showed you?
Yeah. Yes.
Judge, I'm asking that what's been marked as defense Q for identification be entered into evidence.
State, do you have any objection?
No, Your Honor.
What's been previously marked for identification as states Q will be, defense Q will be received as defense 6.
I'm sorry. Permission to publish?
You may.
Do you know where Zachary is living now?
Yeah.
Where is he living?
He's living in Virginia.
Okay, do you know who he lives with?
Yes.
Who is that?
He lives with Richard and Mike.
Okay, have you had any contact with Richard or Mike?
Yeah.
Do you know when you started having contact with them?
Probably like within the last maybe like 2-3 months maybe.
Okay. And does Richard help you in any way?
Recently he has.
What does he do?
He helped he sent me some food.
Okay. While you were in the jail?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Danielle, do you love your brother? Nicholas?
I do. I do.
Thank you, ma'am.
Cross-examination?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Woodard.
Good afternoon, sir.
Is this the first time you're actually in the same room with Nicholas Cruz?
This is the second time.
What?
This is the second time.
Oh, the first time was when he was born?
Yeah.
Okay. And when he was born in September of 1998, you were almost 12 years old, correct?
Yes, sir.
Your date of birth is what?
October 7th,
What year?
1986.
Okay. So approximately 2 weeks later, you turned 12 after his birth, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And at the time of the birth, where were you living?
With Brenda in the efficiency.
And it was somewhere in this neighborhood where the courthouse is?
Right by Short Tail Charlie's.
Short-tailed Charlie's.
Short-tailed Charlie's.
Okay. And was anyone else living there?
My grandma.
Okay. And you kept referring to Brenda Woodard as Brenda. Is that what you would call her?
Brenda.
You called her that even when you were young?
Yeah.
Okay. And Dorothy Mayer, is that how she pronounced her name? Dorothy Mayer?
Dorothy, yeah. Yes, sir.
And so I was having a little trouble hearing you. Your voice was a little low. So you said she's your grandmother?
Yes, that's my grandmother. That's our grandmother.
And that's not Brenda's mother, though, was it?
Yes.
Was it her mother or stepmother?
That was her mother.
Her mother? Okay. And where did Dorothy Mayer usually live?
She lived in the Gables, and we had our own place in Hallandale, but Hurricane Andrew blew it away.
Okay. So I think that might have been 30 years ago today, Hurricane Andrew.
Yeah.
Okay. At least that's what the paper said. So you went to school in Miami a lot of your childhood, didn't you?
Yes.
And where were those schools?
I went to, in Dade or Broward?
Dade.
In Dade, I went to Henry M. Flagler Elementary. I went to...
What grades were you there?
I was there from 2nd to 5th.
And were you living with Grandma Dorothy at the time?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
And your mother wasn't living there?
No.
Okay.
She was not allowed there. Only to pick me up and leave.
Okay. And so you were in elementary school in Miami, and then you started middle school in Miami, didn't you?
Yes.
What middle school was that?
I went to Kinlock, and I went to other middle schools as well.
Okay. And when you were in middle school, 7th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
6th and 7th, I was there. Yes.
And 8th grade, where were you?
I was, I think I ran away or I got in trouble. I don't remember.
Okay. And when did you go into foster care?
I went into foster care when I was 12, and then my grandmother died, and Jody was still alive, and Jody felt bad because I was in foster care, so she let me come back.
And who was Jody?
Jody was my grandma's best friend. She was like my aunt, but...
Okay, was that an elderly person, Jody?
Yes.
How old was she?
She was older.
Okay, like 70s, 80s? Or?
No, like 60s.
Okay, all right. So the reason you went to foster care is because you were running away from home, right?
No, I went to foster care because my grandmother couldn't take care of me. And Jody, at that moment, she didn't want me at the house. I was a little out of control. I had a lot of anger problems, a lot of problems.
You had a lot of, you were getting in trouble with the police too, weren't you?
So, yeah, I was. And I went to the bridge and I ran away from the bridge.
And the bridge is that a drug treatment center?
The bridge is a place for children that have nowhere to, teenage children, like a shelter that have nowhere to go.
And you were at the village too?
The village, yes.
That's another treatment shelter for young girls?
Yes.
Okay. And how long were you in the foster care system?
I was in the foster care system since I was 12.
Until you were 18?
Yeah.
Okay. So, when you were 12, is that when you began using about 12 alcohol and other drugs?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. You were asked before if you'd gone to prison. How many times have you gone to prison?
I've been to prison twice.
Okay, and you're in custody now in it's like the Dade County Jail for Women?
Yes.
Okay, and are you pending new charges?
Yes.
Okay. In your childhood, would it be accurate to say that you were exposed to drug abuse by your mother, Brenda Woodard?
Yes, sir.
And did she expose you to stealing?
Yes, sir.
Did she expose you to crack addiction?
Yes, sir.
Or crack addicts, I should say.
Yes, sir.
Did she expose you to prostitution?
Yes.
And you hated her as a child, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And your mom wasn't the type of mom who was going to school like meetings where they discussed problems you were having, did she?
She showed up one time to my school with a hard hat and embarrassed me.
Okay. Was your grandmother coming to the school when you were having problems?
My grandmother, yes.
Okay, but not your mother, right?
No.
Your mom was not a stay-at-home mom waiting for you to come home from school, was she?
Some days she'd wait for me to come home from school.
But mostly she was working the street?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. And your mom was stealing?
Yes.
And your mom was prostituting?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
I'm sorry to talk about these things. Your mom wasn't taking you to a psychiatrist, was she?
No.
She wasn't picking up any prescriptions that you might need?
No.
And your mom never helped you get a job, did she?
No.
You weren't living in a 4,500 square foot house on 2 acres with a pool, jacuzzi, and a basketball court, were you?
It was a dream, but no.
That would be a dream for you, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And you weren't having therapists coming to your house several times a week to try and help you?
I do remember seeing therapists quite often. Numerous times.
Would you go to them or at the school?
I went to them.
Okay. You were not going to summer camps, were you?
Yes, I've been to summer camp.
Yeah, which one?
Red Berry's Baseball World.
Okay. And no rich couple paid your mother money to adopt you and give you unconditional love, did they?
Paid my mother, you mean?
To adopt you.
No.
In fact, that would have been a great thing if it happened to you, wouldn't it?
I would have thought that back then.
Well, you would have fought it if you were a kid, but not if you were a baby. You couldn't fight it, could you?
No, I said I would have thought that back then. What the question you just asked me?
Yes.
I said I would have thought that would have been a great thing.
Oh, okay. Even when you were an older child, you would have welcomed that.
My understanding that my Linda wanted to. Brenda told me this, that she wanted to take me, but my grandmother and my grandmother's bond was, we were too attached to each other, so it wouldn't have worked out.
Okay. But you wouldn't have mind living in a 4,500 square foot home on 2 acres in Parkland, right?
Right.
Okay. You mentioned on direct that you know a person named Richard Moore now, correct?
Yes.
And that's not someone you knew before, what did you say, 2 or 3 months ago?
I've known about him, and I've spoken with him before.
Okay. But you didn't know him from your childhood, correct?
No.
And you're aware, I believe you said, Zachary Cruz, the defendant's brother, and you're also technically a birth brother as well, correct? Is living with him in Virginia?
Yes.
Okay. And Richard Moore's in the courtroom today, isn't he?
I don't see him.
Weren't you saying hello to him before?
Yeah, I did earlier, but right now I don't see him.
You see him now? Or you don't see him now, but you saw him before? Mm-hmm. Okay. And you didn't know this Richard Moore person before this shooting happened with the defendant, did you?
Right.
You know him through Nicholas Cruz, correct?
Right, yes.
Okay. And did you learn that him and his spouse, Michael Donovan, picked up Zach after he was bonding out from the jail without ever having met him before, and took him up to Virginia?
I heard.
Okay. He didn't know Zach Cruz before then either, right?
Richard?
Yes.
I don't think so, no.
Or Michael Donovan, his spouse. Okay. And Richard Moore does send you money, correct?
He has.
Okay. And have you met, did you get a new attorney today?
I don't know yet.
You don't know if you got a new attorney?
I don't know yet.
Okay. Do you know who Mark Lowry is?
Yes.
Who is he?
He's an attorney.
Okay. Do you know he's your attorney now?
Yeah, you just told me.
I told you?
I think so. That's what you just said, right?
Okay. All right. And he's in the courtroom now too, correct?
Yes.
And your old attorney is also here, correct?
Yes, he is.
Okay, and so Mr. Lowry replaced Mr. Rosenberg today, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And did you know that Mr. Lowry represented Zach Cruz in the past?
Yes.
And Mr. Moore arranged for Mr. Lowry to represent you, correct?
No.
No?
No.
Who did?
Zach.
Zach did.
Yes.
Who's living with Richard Moore, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that Richard Moore and Michael Donovan produce a reality television series?
Beyond the scope. Overruled.
Are you aware that Richard Moore and Michael Donovan produce a reality TV show?
What does that have to do with anything, sir?
Ma'am, I'll decide whether or not it's relevant. If I don't say the objection is sustained or tell you not to answer, then you need to answer the question.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right.
Are you aware of that?
No.
Are you aware that one of the episodes of the show was called Being Zachary Cruz?
Overruled, you can answer.
That what?
Are you aware that Richard Moore and Michael Donovan have a show where they have an episode called Being Zachary Cruz as a
No.
part of a reality show? Are you aware of that?
No.
Do you think that it would be... well, let me strike that. Do you think it would be appropriate to capitalize on the murder of 14
Objection.
children and 3 staff members of
Objection, Your
MS?
Honor.
I would like to finish the question first.
I'm waiting to rule until you finish.
Do you think it would be appropriate to capitalize on the murders of 14 children and 3 staff members at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School by filming or creating a reality show based on being the brother of a mass murderer?
Okay, ma'am, don't answer the question. I'm sustaining the objection.
Judge, I'm moving to strike that.
Overruled.
Are you aware that Mr. Moore has sent thousands of dollars to Nicholas Cruz to his commissary this year alone?
Can I ask him a question?
If you don't understand the question, you can tell me you don't understand the question. That's fine.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Are you aware that Richard Moore has sent thousands of dollars this year alone to Nicholas Cruz commissary account?
I'm not aware, but how do you know it's only him? Zachary has his own money too.
What's his note?
Ma'am, just the attorney asked the question, you answer the question, okay? If you don't understand, you can say, I don't understand, or can you repeat it, but you can't just fire back your own questions, okay? Thank you.
Are you aware of that?
Yes, you just told me.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much, Ms. Woodard.
All right, sir.
Okay, anything else, Ms. Curtis? Is there anything else?
Before Nicholas was born and you were living in that apartment, did Brenda have to go somewhere just before, for a few weeks before Nicholas was born?
Objection, outside the scope.
Overruled. That means you can answer.
Okay. She had to go to a drug treatment program.
Okay, and you and your grandmother, did you stay in that apartment?
We stayed at the apartment.
Okay, and how did you get to the hospital when Nicholas was born?
My grandma.
Okay. When did you first find out that Nicholas Cruz, who is your brother, was the one who committed the shooting in Parkland?
I found out that was him when Kate came to see me in 2018. I was in prison. That's when I found out that was my baby brother.
Okay. And at that time, did you tell Kate a lot of the things that you testified here to today?
Objection.
Sustained.
Hearsay.
Hearsay is admissible on a penalty phase.
Sustained.
Did you agree to testify about your mother and about what you saw her doing while she was pregnant before you ever met Richard Moore?
Yes.
And you told Mr. Marcus you have charges pending against you, right?
Yes.
And you're here anyway testifying on behalf of your brother?
Yes.
Okay. You were never an ESE student, a special education student, right?
No.
Were you ever told that you had a language disorder?
Objection. Outside the scope.
Overruled.
They had to cut my tongue when I was little, underneath.
Okay, that was for speech, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mr. Marcus asked you a bunch of questions about whether you would want to live in a 4,500 square foot home, right?
Yeah, he did.
And he asked you about whether you would want to have parents who took you to the doctor, right?
Yeah.
And he talked to you about whether you would want parents who went and got medication for you, right?
Yes.
Would you have wanted, while you were in your mother's womb, to have her drink Cisco wine every day?
No, ma'am.
Would you have wanted her to smoke crack every day?
No, ma'am.
Would you have wanted her to smoke cigarettes every day?
No.
Would you have wanted her to go to the doctor only 4 times?
No.
May I have a moment, Judge?
You may. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to take a brief recess so we can set up the next witness who's going to be testifying via Zoom. So we just need to set the equipment up. Please do not discuss the case. Please leave your notes.